And I would ask you, Professor, because you certainly can recall, as I can, the fiscal crisis that the city faced in the 1970s, to perhaps give us a little lesson on how this time is more like that than it is like more current history.
Well, you know, we are akin to the Great Depression. I mean, we've got huge unemployment. That means a lot of lost money at every level. So the fallback position that states and cities have is gone. There is no fallback. States across the country are bankrupt. Arizona, one of the big contradictions is any punishment to Arizona puts them further into bankruptcy, and they're still willing to do that. So I think the point that the councilwoman made is clear. Not everything is going to be maintained. It's not the standard ball game. Without being trivial about this, though, you know, the notion that a crisis is an opportunity. Well, that's right sometimes. I mean, if you lose your arm, that's a crisis. It's not an opportunity. But there's got to be some ways to think about it. The hedge fund proposal, given the way Wall Street behaved, I don't think, in my judgment, one can punish them too much. Now, I'm sure there's a balancing point in an equation that says, you know, if you really go after them so that they don't make $800 million a year, well,
You mean each guy?
yeah. I mean, you know, when I hear that kind of salary and complaint about taxing a little bit more for those at the top, I really cannot understand it. And I don't think most New Yorkers can understand it. So there's a give, I think, there. And the nation's in a mood to get those guys.
They sure are.
So they should go after those guys. And when that battle's lost, maybe you look for something else. But I sure would love to see them fight that battle.
That would be an interesting battle. Megan, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, just piggybacking off of what the professor said, you know, the battle hasn't been really waged in New York against Wall Street in lots of ways. The focus
They've
has
been protected. They've been, right? The
Absolutely.
sacred cow.
And they've been
the golden cow.
But also, not only that, but even in the media, the focus has been overwhelmingly on D.C. and what D.C. is doing. And now as we come, you know, to election time again, it's a perfect opportunity for New York, whether it be at the state level and at the city level, to really attack Wall Street in terms of how it's affecting Main Street, New York City. Because people don't think of New York City as Main Street, right? There's still this vision
and
of
most
New
of Main
York.
Street doesn't think New York City is Main Street
Absolutely.
either.
Well, yeah, exactly. But we have main streets in New York City, okay? And we have communities that are struggling. And, you know, well, you know, there's a hip hop song that says, you know, more money, more problems. Our communities need more money to help our problems because, as the professor was talking about in the earlier segment, we have more people. The Latino communities, the poorer communities, we have more people and more needs, and we're starting from a different level than other parts of the city. And that needs to be considered as we move forward against Wall Street or whoever else is the target.
See, here's a point where I think the Latino community needs to acknowledge its own contribution to its own problem. If the Latino community mobilized, voted at the rate that it could, you'd have a heck of a lot more influence. Nationally, and I think maybe even in New York, more Latino citizens don't vote than vote.